Hi, everybody. My name is Jean Eichler, and I'm with OT on Campus. I'm also a member of the U.S. Autism Advisory Board, and I'm here with Michael McManmon of College Internship Program and many other things. Also a member of the U.S. Autism Advisory Board, and we're going to be talking today about accidental insults. I really I think this is a really good topic because sometimes we just don't mean it, but we might say things that insult other people because people can take things in lots of different ways. Michael, why don't you just introduce yourself to the people who may not know you briefly, and then you can talk about accidental insults and where you're coming from with this.
Well, sure. Well, I'm Michael McManmon. I have 6 children, 19 grandchildren, diagnosed about 20 years ago by my staff, and ran 5 centers for young adults with learning differences and autism for like 35, 40 years. And so, and had many family members on the spectrum growing up, including myself. So this has been a problem for me. And even today, this morning and yesterday, I had problems with this in groups that I'm in.
So it's a timely conversation then.
Yeah, so I want to say that these social thinking skills are very slow to acquire because we have sort of this innate inability to see some of the things coming toward us. So, for example, when I was a child, children in a supermarket might say, "Oh, look at the fat lady," out loud, to their mother, and the woman will hear it, right? And so it's a little bit of the same thing, but as adults, we can do the same thing, and not even realize it, just on a different level. Um, and so, how do we develop a filter between here and here? And that's really what the whole discussion's about.
I would think that it might have something to do with even knowing that you might have hurt somebody's feelings, because that's usually what it is. When you insult someone, usually the outcome is that you somehow hurt their feelings, and most people don't mean to hurt people's feelings.
Exactly. So the first step is exactly that, is awareness. When you continue to have the problem over and over, hopefully your brain says to you, "I guess I have difficulty with this, and maybe I need to do something different." So when you get a clue, I mean, one of the first things is to know how to apologize, because we just expect it, it's no big deal, but it is a big deal. Or I used to say to people, if I step on someone's toes by accident, it still hurts them, and I still need to apologize whether I did it on purpose or not. And so that's where we have to come from. So
could you give me an example of how that might go, especially, if the person didn't, how you might navigate through that? If the person really didn't mean it, it was an accident, they never thought that they were insulting somebody, but they ended up hurting their feelings. How would you apologize if you hurt somebody's feelings?
Well, I had to do that today. So I was in a men's group, and I'm starting, and I had a format, 2 pages. I developed it over months with a couple guys. And this one guy just started going off the format and telling this long story. And I interrupted him nicely, but he was not happy. And either were a couple other people like, "Why didn't you just let him continue? It's the first meeting. We want to know what he was saying." And I was following the format. We wanted him to answer a couple questions that he wasn't even getting anywhere near about what his goals were for. So I had to explain myself and then apologize. I think I apologized twice, but I didn't do it I also stood up for myself and said, "Oh, by the way, you were late to the meeting, so you didn't hear the instructions." So I didn't belly up and just be this codependent person who has to apologize all the time for everything in the world that he does, because I did interrupt him, but also the reason I interrupted him was partly his responsibility. And I called him on that. If you hadn't been late, you would have known the directions. And, we worked it out, and he's still a good member and coming back again. So those kind of things can happen. And the thing is not to shame yourself too, when you make these mistakes, because we're going to make them over and over again. So getting to the point.
And we all do it, it's,
Yep.
Nobody means to do that. Or most people don't mean to do that. And when it does happen, just owning up to it the words "I'm sorry" can be incredibly powerful.
Yeah, there are politicians who mean to do that. And we're noticing it in the conversation right now, right? And so there are people who do it on purpose to intimidate and other people. But like you said, most people do not intend to do it at all. So you have to have the motivation to change. You can continue to have the problem, but if there's, for me, it was embarrassment. I kept being so embarrassed by my behavior that I said, I have to learn how to get those soft signs and see them, and then take appropriate action and avoid as many times the problem as much as possible.
So
and then go on.
From your mindset, then, you had a meeting that you had planned very carefully. You had an agenda that you wanted to go with. You had things that you wanted to cover. You were super organized. You did everything right. And when you mix the best laid plans with other people, you get what's going to happen. And so, that person mixed with your perfectly aligned plan didn't work. And
that's the problem. And we on the spectrum get so into our ideas and how things should be that we don't have the flexibility sometimes to deal with things like that.
Yep.
And so I had to be, actually, people even complimented me by the end of the building, said, Michael, you're so flexible about what, we're doing with the group. So that was really good feedback. And so I do have a little mechanism I use that we teach to our students.
Okay.
It's called SODA: stop, observe, deliberate, and then take action. And the way that works is, like, for example, if I see a soft sign, like, okay, this person's going on, and normally I might want to interrupt him. What am I going to do? So I observe. If he keeps going on, and if he's off task, then I deliberate in my brain. Okay, what should I do? Should I interrupt him? Should I give him a cue? Say, okay, can I say just a short cue, like, can you please address the questions? That's what I really did, but he didn't like it. And and then deliberate also means that you can use the donkey rule if you have time. So if it wasn't during a meeting, I could probably stop and ask 3 or 4 mentors of mine, what do you think I should do? And if they all say one thing, then I'll do that, right? Mm-hmm. So it's a donkey rule. It's called the donkey rule because if I'm calling it a horse and 5 people say it's a donkey, then don't be a jackass and do what they say. That's
a good one.
Yeah. And so in this case, I didn't have any time to do that, but I did know enough to apologize and explain myself. I also stood up for myself. So I did all those things in one interaction. And then I took action several times during the meeting, enough that the guy really still felt safe to stay in the meeting and wants to be part of it. So
that's the important part, right? That you don't lose the person, you don't lose the people that you want around you.
Yeah. So how do people find places where they can practice these skills, safe places? And so joining a men's group like I'm in, where they get to know you and see that it's your whole personality, all the other good parts of it, so that when this comes up, they don't if that's all they see from you, then they're going to discard you. But so I find that being on the spectrum, the more that people know me, the deeper they know me, the more they really like my honesty and my integrity and all those things. But at first, I can look like a type A, egotistical male, because some of that will come through. And I think it's a problem with people on the spectrum in general. We tend to be, so there's other ways. You can go on online Zoom meetings where you can practice these skills, discussion groups. And here's the most important part, and I think this is what happens to a lot of our students. If they fail, like asking a girl for a date, if they fail, they won't try again. They won't try again because they're so humiliated and ashamed of themselves. So it's important not to self-shame and to get right back up on the horse and know that even if you fail in 5 relationships in a row, then there's that fly bothering me.
I see
Then,
that.
then you can get back up on the horse again and try again and not be so embarrassed. And just apologize quickly and get back up on the horse.
A really great lesson that I learned a long time ago. I met Ron Kaufman's dad, Bears, and he opened a workshop many years ago saying, everybody you meet is doing the best they can at that moment, even if it doesn't look like it. And so
Sure.
we have to remember that about ourselves and give ourselves some grace. But we also need to remind people who are around us that we're always doing the best that we can and kind of set that as a rule and a tone, so
Sure.
that it is safe to make mistakes. But when we call ourselves out on things, and we feel unsafe around people, maybe those are people we don't want to be around anyway.
Exactly. And one of the things that helped me see it or in my brain was Thomas Edison, because when you think of making the light bulb, right? He probably had to try 1,000 different metals combinations till he got tungsten, and that lit up and stayed lit up. And so, were those mistakes or approximations to the right answers?
Well, it's
There
excellent
you go.
data. He knows what doesn't work, what works, what happens
Right.
when you do this.
It's
I mean,
just as important. When I got my daughter diagnosed, they eliminate, okay, it's not a hearing problem. Okay, it's not a speech problem. And they eliminate things, get a full physical, it's not that. And then you start to zone in on what are the areas that need remediation and then give it a diagnosis like, well, this is what she has, a reading problem, a reading disorder, right? And so that's what you have to do. And with yourself, it's the same thing. You just have to keep the experiment like a research project. And what I found, here's some solutions for people, is to simply ask a lot of questions of people and try to listen more. So we want to put our input in, and then, uh, you know, apologize quickly. I've had to learn to apologize quickly because otherwise it can go on and on. Take responsibility. Okay, I did say it and I made a mistake. And so today, leading this meeting with these 6, 7 men, I just said, yeah, that's a mistake. I made a mistake. And yeah, we probably should have let him talk on and then afterwards talked about it. But I didn't. And so, and then I also made him take responsibility. Like, you did come in late and you didn't hear the instructions, and that's part of the problem. So it's not just me interrupting, it's you too. I wasn't trying to blame. I'm just saying and I said, I'm not trying to blame you, but that's why I felt the need to interrupt you. So you see what I'm saying? And that creates a safe environment for everyone. When I take responsibility, then they say, okay, see, this is a great place. We can all make mistakes and be together.
right, because people are kind of funny, and nobody sees us as intensely as we see ourselves. We think they do. We think they see all the things, but most people don't even notice a lot of stuff.
Yeah, so let's
You
even
just think
say
it.
for this video,
Mm-hmm.
you apologized a couple times that you're going to be late, right? And
Mm-hmm.
no big deal because you took action and you said it. And it's so important for people to communicate. And we on the spectrum think that people are just going to know our minds and it's all right. And then we get defensive because maybe we've been criticized our whole lives. And so we don't want to, our egos can be weak. So we think apologizing is not strength. And we definitely get that in the political environment, right? You can't apologize because then you look like you're not strong and you're not type A or whatever. So it's really a strength to be able to apologize and take responsibility for yourself.
Well, and it makes people feel comfortable and like they can still communicate with you because you're on the same level. Apologizing to
Exactly.
someone makes us vulnerable. All kinds of things can happen when you apologize. you're opening yourself up for somebody to come at you and put you down and hurt your feelings back. And
And I could make
um,
a case. I could make a case that my mistake at that meeting brought those men together on a deeper level where they felt more secure with each other because of the way it was handled.
well, you also stopped everything in its tracks from what I can hear, and you didn't let it go on for the whole meeting, which probably a great leadership thing. Now we're not talking about leadership, but it sounds like one of the impacts was that you were able to reboot what was going on so that it didn't perpetuate and keep piling on and get worse and worse.
And I was aware the rest of the meeting, the rest of the hour and a half, that I didn't want to do it again. And so I would listen more intently and then we had the whole agenda to go through. What I did, which was I think pretty smart, is I said, okay, we're going to do the agenda, but we're going to just pass the agenda around and people are going to handle different parts of the agenda. So I spread the leadership out, let them all take responsibility for different areas and getting everyone's opinions. And so I took the onus off myself and I don't have to be the one who's just saying everything and keeping everything in order. They shared the responsibility. So it makes
And
big
what did
difference.
that do for you? How did that change the experience for you by doing that? Since you had organized the whole thing.
It took the pressure off me thinking I had to do it perfectly and that I had to convince them into these points that I wanted and just let it roll. And they felt it. Like I said, at the end, they said, you're so flexible. We really like now the plan we have. We're all happy with the agenda and the way we're going to do it. So that's what happened because I was able to pull back and let them sort of run the meeting with me and see that it's not about my opinions and my say.
So that's a lesson in mindset too. So we're
Yeah.
not just talking about accidental insults. We're talking about being a leader, leading yourself and how strong leaders handle when they do something that might insult or hurt somebody's feelings.
Oh, and that's taken how many years, of being diagnosed and working in the field for 40 years with students. So it's taken all of that. And that's what I'm trying. I guess that's my main message to people out there. You got to be a lifelong learner if you're on the spectrum in the social area, because most of us are going to take hundreds of times before we get the ability to really hone our skills. And every relationship I've been in, I never intended to be in one and more than one. I'm on my fourth relationship. And every one of my exes has said the same thing to me. You couldn't possibly think that I meant that. And I'd say, yes, I did. And that's what you said. And so the social thinking problems are in there. And also they feel a lack of empathy for them, that you're not hearing them and you're not feeling what they're saying. That's the problem. Because I understand what they're saying and I might have 20 solutions for them if they want it. But I'm not reflecting to them their feelings, whether it's a male or a female. People want to feel that you're hearing them and on a deep personal level. And that's part of this whole thing with the accidental insults. You can make them, and they're an opportunity for growth and understanding. If you can apologize and take responsibility, you can come closer to the other person.
And here you are teaching people how to deal with accidental insults. And you're also a model, and frankly, so am I, of, we're always, you don't ever perfect this. You'd never know if you're going to insult somebody. Sometimes just the littlest thing that you never even thought might hurt somebody's feelings or insult them. And so this is something that we need to do or have the skills to do our whole lives. It's a lot of I'm sorry's and a lot
Right.
of just self-reflection, but we don't have to beat ourselves up over it.
Exactamente.
Hey, have you ever been in a situation where you just can't get out of the hole and you just, you say something, you insult, you just know, you apologize, and then you just find yourself just jumping into that hole over and over because the other person doesn't let you out of it?
Well, yeah, some people hold you in your past, and if I've changed, you've changed. In 10 years of being, working on myself on the spectrum, or 15 years, I'm not the same person I was. Even I have one of my children who holds me back there, like because I wasn't, the best person to deal with when I was really very, what do you call it, cognitively not flexible. Let's put it that way. And so my older children are quite different than my younger children with me, because the younger ones had the benefit of my diagnosis and my working on myself and help, in doing that. And the older ones had me when I was younger, a little more strident and pushy with them. And so there's quite a difference in the way they relate to me. And it's hard to change that with the older ones. It's like having an ex, right? If you did some stupid stuff with your ex, they might hold you there, and that's why you're divorced probably. And so is that person going to see the benefit of your changes if you have a new marriage and you become this really good person who listens to your spouse and loves them and is kind and considerate when you're not the way you were in the past with that other person?
Probably
They're not
not.
they're not going to know. And they're still going to think of you as the whatever they thought you were before. So human beings can change. You can teach an old horse new tricks when it wants to learn.
Right, but you never really nail it. I think
No,
that's the thing, is that this is something that everybody needs to work on. Everybody works on. And it's something that, you really can't fully control. You don't wake up in the morning and go, okay, I'm never gonna insult anybody. You could, you might not even know that it happened. And it's good to always just know what to do if it comes to your attention that it's
sure.
happened. So it's
It's a
it's
benefit.
amazing, coming from the guy who teaches people all of this stuff, and you're saying, "Look, I had the problem this morning." That's a really big statement and a very powerful one for the people
And I
who
had I
live
had the
here.
problem yesterday too. So it's not just this morning. And I was trying to figure that out and say, what's going on with me? I think what I'm doing is I'm trying to be more decisive and stand up more. And
Hmm.
so and when you learn to be more, for yourself, you're going to step on toes sometimes, you're not knowing how to stand up for yourself. And so, people who are very, uh, complacent, when they try to be assertive, they do it the wrong way. You remember when we went through women's lib about 30 years ago, how strident the women were? They were very aggressive and and it's mellowed down to now that they feel heard and, mostly treated equally, except in money and stuff. But they're still standing up for each other, like the U.S. Women's soccer team got equal pay by standing
Hmm.
up for themselves. That's just last year. So there's still a lot of work to be done. And so when you stand up for yourself the first time and become assertive, you're going to step on people's toes.
No, people aren't used to that.
Yeah. And you might do it the wrong way too. And so you might go a little bit over the top where you shouldn't. You have to learn to moderate it, right?
But that's okay. I think when we have to get something out, sometimes it's not pretty, but we can also be a little self-forgiving, but, also let people know, you know what, I've never done that before. And it may have come off differently than what I was thinking. And, I'm sorry if it did.
Yeah, we had a student who went to the college on Valentine's Day. He bought two large boxes of heart-shaped chocolates for these two
Aw.
girls in his class. They hardly didn't even know him. He had just said hi to him or something. And he over the top gives them these big, like $15, I guess, I don't know how
They
much it
didn't know what to
costs.
say.
They didn't know what to say. He doesn't calibrate it at all. He had no sense. He thought, oh, these girls like me because they talked a little tiny bit to him or something. And so that's what I'm talking about. When he's trying to be assertive or trying to build a relationship, he doing it way out of the box, the context of what was supposed to happen, social thinking problem. It just maybe a little hard, or even just saying hi to them, Happy Valentine's Day would have been enough, but he didn't get that. And so that's a social thinking session right there, you
It's a
know?
social thinking session and an example that, sometimes people just, that was probably a really big deal for him. And he wanted to reciprocate that that was a really big deal. That was a lot. And they probably didn't think anything of it, when they were being so nice and so friendly, and that
Yeah.
can be blown out of proportion. So they were probably pretty surprised, and
Yeah.
didn't know what to
So
say and probably hurt his feelings.
it's sort of an accidental insult to give those girls these hearts, and they're saying, "Who the hell is this guy?" They don't even know his name, probably, and so it's sort of like shows you that even in positive ways, we can really be really off base socially. You know,
Yeah, but it's amazing. People grow, and if you're around good people in your life, people also forgive each other because we have to live in the world together, and that's
Mhm.
important. So, we're worth investing in and
Yeah,
spending that time, and forgiving each other and forgiving ourselves.
sure, exactly.
Well, so is there anything you'd like to leave us with as we wind up this conversation? I think there's a lot more to talk about and to practice. Anything you'd like to leave our audience with?
Yeah, I guess the main point I'd like to make, and just we talk about real briefly, is not shaming yourself when you make a mistake, because that's really what keeps you from making progress. Thinking that you're the only one who acts this way, or you're so stupid, even though you're very, very smart in different areas. It's just don't shame yourself. Just be willing to get right back up on the horse, and learn your lesson and move on. And even if it happens again, then do the same thing. But that's the only thing that's going to stop you from learning it, is stopping to trying, stop trying.
Right, because we're never as visible as we think we are.
No.
We always think everybody sees everything, and people aren't paying that close attention to the things that we're paying that clse attention to. So,
And the neurotypical people don't kick their asses the way we do ours. They
oh, I don't
just,
know about that. I've worked with a lot of neurotypical people who are pretty
okay.
hard on themselves, but
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, you can
but
have it too.
to be in a world where people are always telling you that you need to comply and you need to fit in and everything, that's difficult and it's not fair.
Yep.
So, well,
Okay.
thank you so, so much for talking about this today. I think it's a timely topic. I think it's a good one. And if anybody would like to talk more about this, please feel free to reach out to Michael. His information is on the US Autism website, and he would probably love to go back and forth with you on this one.
Yeah, no problem.
So,
Thank
thank
you
you.
so much for having me.